Good evening. In compliance with Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, I call to order a regular voting meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Austin Independent School District for Thursday, February 25th, 2021 at 5:37 p.m. A quorum of the board, along with a limited number of our staff members, are physically present at AISD headquarters to conduct this meeting. In addition, we have a majority of our staff joining us by video. We're following necessary health protocols to ensure the safety of those who are here in person, but please keep in mind we are continuing to comply with local health orders and CDC guidance, and so we are not yet able to open our meetings to in-person attendance by our full staff and community. We will be continuing to use the virtual platform until it is safe to do otherwise. This meeting is streaming live on AISD TV and Apple TV, and it's also being broadcast on cable channel 22 through Spectrum, Grande, Google Fiber TV, and on channel 99 through AT&T UVerse. Closed captioning in English is available on these platforms for the hearing impaired. And to our audience tuning in remotely, welcome and thank you for joining us. We will move to the approval of the agenda. Secretary Singh, do you have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second? Having a motion by Secretary Singh and a second by Trustee Zapata to approve the agenda, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. And the motion passes by all those on the dais. Secretary Singh, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the pledge to the Texas flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Juro lealtad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Honro a la bandera de Texas, te juro lealtad, Texas, un estado bajo Dios, único e indivisible.
Thank you, trustees. We will now move to our Game Changers items, which is our opportunity to recognize and observe important items happening in AISD and our nation. Dr. Elizalde, would you please introduce our first item?
Thank you, President Rodriguez. Good evening, Board of Trustees. As we reflect on our recognition tonight, I want to share a quote from the scholar and author, Dr. Keisha Blaine. Deficiencies in the public's knowledge of the Black past have significant consequences for the present and the future. Indeed, the careful study of the Black past provides a blueprint for Americans to better understand, among other things, the dynamics of race, the history of race relations, and the lasting impact of racism and white supremacy. Such awareness can be instructive for the future. Every year, the Association for the Study of African American Life and History announces a theme and reflection for Black History Month. This year, the theme is the Black Family: Representation, Identity, and Diversity. Family stories are important to our students. It tells not just the history of their families, but also represents the history of generations of African Americans in the United States. These are stories full of cultural pride, the importance of family and keeping traditions, and building and sustaining community. Unfortunately, these stories also reflect the racial discrimination and inequalities our Black students, families, and staff have faced and continue to face. While each story is unique, there are common bonds. Their stories and lived experiences reveal resilient qualities of perseverance, persistence, and the pursuit of excellence. The Black family is also a reflection of diversity within our own district. Our AISD community knows the importance of diversity. While diversity is one step in pursuing equity, we know our work has truly just begun. Let us each reflect upon the experiences, stories, and families who shape our community and our schools. As Bettina Love, professor at the University of Georgia, reminds us, for equity work to work, it must be handed to the community. We have to actually trust the people we say we want to empower to make structural changes, not just tinker at the edges of injustice. It is our continued commitment to center equity in all the work we do to better serve our Black students and families, which ultimately benefits us all.
Thank you, Dr. Elizalde. Before I open up comments to other trustees, I just want to share a brief statement. February is a time to reflect on the history and achievement of Black Americans. Austin ISD and the city of Austin has had a devastating history in regards to how we have historically treated our Black and African American students and community members. But through this, we have also seen bright, shining examples of leadership, courage, and equality at Austin ISD. I'm reminded of someone who preceded, actually all of us on this board, the Honorable Wilhelmina Delco. Mrs. Delco was elected to the Austin Independent School District Board of Trustees 53 years ago in 1968, and at that time was the first African American elected to public office in Austin in any position. While on the board, Mrs. Delco was part of a board that had to consider and implement the federal desegregation order after it was determined Austin was not in compliance. And during this time, Mrs. Delco also served as a founding member of the Austin Community College Board, helping open up that community college system. Following her 6-year term as a trustee, she served Austin and Texas on the House of Representatives, serving another 10 terms. We owe former trustee and Representative Delco a debt of gratitude for the contribution she made to Austin, Austin ISD, Austin Community College, and this nation. This is just one story, but this community has many just like it, and I hope all students get to hear about these amazing heroes, understand their life and the challenges they faced, and how their work has brought us a bit closer to the community we want and need in Austin. Austin ISD has many heroes like this today in our countless teachers, librarians, counselors, custodians, food service workers, and administrators who every single day make a difference in our students. It's important for our students to see these adults who look like them and have had similar life experiences. As a board, I want to encourage all students to continue to learn the history and stories of our Black communities, and also to think on the amazing possibilities we have ahead of us. And thank you. And at this time, I'd like to open it up to other trustees. Trustee Letitia Anderson.
I would just like to say to our African American students, despite turning on the news and you may see on the internet people telling you that you're not good enough, your hair this, you don't look a certain way, let me tell you something. You are good enough. Go blaze your own trail. Do you. Nobody defines you but you. And I look forward to seeing you make headlines. I look forward to the future politicians, should you want to be. I look forward to the former future educators. Whatever you want to be, you can do it. Don't never let anyone tell you you're not good enough, because you are. And when things get hard, when you feel like you want to give up, I mean, just look to the stars. I mean, anything is possible. Just don't give up. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Luke?
So I just want to quote this statement from Dr. Angela Ward. Our school district was privileged to have her leadership for many years. Without her, our district would not have had the cultural proficiency and inclusiveness department that we get to have today. And I hope and pray that we can continue the work that she started. So this quote says, "When a pledge to become anti-racist or culturally proficient lacks actionable goals tied to the daily work of education, it is nothing more than a gesture or an empty promise."
Thank you, Trustee Lu. Trustees, anyone else who'd like to? A few words. Well, thank you all. Our next item is a recognition of Career and Technical Education Recognition Month. Dr. Elizalde?
February is designated as Career and Technical Education, or CTE Awareness Month. It's a time to recognize the achievements and accomplishments of CTE programs in schools. Austin ISD has 13 career clusters, which are a set of sequenced courses based on interests and aptitudes that align to recognized national career focuses. These allow students to specialize in a concentrated study and in many cases lead to valuable certifications and licenses that a student may use to jumpstart their careers. The district also has partnerships with Austin Community College that allows students access to these specialized CTE courses. 6 of our high schools also offer P-TECH programs, which extend the CTE learning through college. These 6-year programs provide students with high school diplomas, associate's degrees, and relevant industry certification with practical workplace experience. These include partnerships with industry leaders. We have 2, such as Seton Healthcare at LBJ Early College High School Health Sciences, and Dell Computers at Northeast Early College High School Technology Centers. We want to thank all of our career and technical education teachers, counselors, and support staff for providing these opportunities to students. You are truly a shining example of our district's mission of preparing every student with the knowledge and skills they need to thrive in college, career, and life.
Thank you, Dr. Elizalde. Could you also provide our next recognition around school counselor appreciation?
Yes, sir. For our next recognition, I would like to ask our Chief Academic Officer, Elizabeth Casas, to share some of the great work that our school counselors are doing and to recognize the amazing work that these amazing counselors that we have in Austin ISD are doing as we speak. Give us just a moment. I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulties with the PowerPoint. One moment.
Trustee Anderson?
While we are waiting, I wanted to give a shout out to Miss Courtney Jackson at LBJ Early College High School for continuing to ensure that the students who are in the health science program continuously pass their tests. Continuously. Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
I am so sorry. I'm having technical difficulties today. Jacob, if you don't mind sharing the presentation. Good evening, Board President Rodriguez, Dr. Elizalde, and the Board of Trustees. It's a great honor to present this information to you tonight. I started my career as a teacher because I wanted to be a school counselor. And so this topic is very near and dear to my heart. So tonight we're recognizing National School Counseling Week, which was celebrated the first week in February. School Counselors All In for All Students is sponsored by the American School Counselor Association. During this exciting week, school counselors who implement comprehensive school counseling programs are recognized as a vital part of the educational process for all students as they meet the challenges of the 21st century. School counselors are celebrated for being actively engaged in helping students examine their abilities, strengths, interests, and talents, for working in partnership with parents as they encounter the challenges of raising children in today's world, for focusing on positive ways to enhance students' academic, post-secondary, social emotional development, and working with teachers and other educators to provide an educational system where students can realize their potential, set healthy, realistic, optimistic aspirations for themselves. Our counselors are an integral part of our total educational program. Next slide, please. So we wanted to give you some context for why we are so excited about this year's results. In the last 4 years, we went from 1 school and 2 counselors receiving the recognition in 2017 to this year, 14 schools and 23 counselors. This year, 143 Texas schools received the CREST Award. Austin ISD represents 14 of them, which is approximately 10% of all the winners across the whole state of Texas. The CREST Award is a prestigious award given by the Texas School Counseling Association. CREST helps counselors evaluate their counseling programs, promote their programs, demonstrate the effectiveness of their guidance and counseling programs through empirical means, and to implement the Texas National Models for School Counseling. Next slide, please. I take great pleasure in recognizing 13 elementary schools and 1 middle school for receiving the Counselors Reinforcing Excellence for Students in Texas, the CREST Award for 2020. We congratulate the following elementary school winners: Lindsay Holly and Deb Alexander from Baldwin, Nicole Loso from Boone, Veronica Coligo from Cassis, Natalie Perez of Doss, Stephanie Winfrey and Chelsea Stover of Hill, Angela Vera of Kusarek Elementary, Lee Gilbert from Russell Lee Elementary, Linda Vachelisik, and Laura Deljusi, I apologize, from Met Sanchez, Katrina Kern, Linda Watley from Mills Elementary, Shannon Sowell from Odom, Courtney Cardosa and Rachel Richards from Summit, Deborah Ostrom from Sunset Valley, Melissa Strangle and Carolyn Sanchez of Patton Elementary. And then the next slide, please. And last but not least, we had our first middle school receive the award. Our counselors there are Carmen Castañeda, Sarah Cryer, Cynthia Diaz, and Jackie Grossman from Clint Small Middle School. We're really excited to have our first middle school receive this award. And we also want to honor our 2 leaders in the CREST cohort. There's Stephanie Winfrey and Christina Kern. They are mentors to other teachers. They help schools evaluate their programs, apply for the award, and help them through the whole application process. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Elizalde.
Thank you. Now we will move to our next recognition. Our next recognition, I would like to ask Michelle Wallace, our Executive Director of Innovation and Development, to introduce our partner and to share a few words with us.
Thank you, Dr. Elizalde. Good evening, trustees, President Rodriguez. I am here tonight to ask for formal recognition of the Genevieve and Ward Orsinger Foundation for its support of the Families as Partners initiative and the Austin Ed Fund's AISD Crisis Support Fund. Since 2019, the Orsinger Foundation has supported efforts to increase parent engagement through an innovative dual generation approach, now at 22 elementary schools throughout Austin ISD. The Orsinger Foundation has also stepped up in response to the crises and recovery efforts over the last year through support of the AISD Crisis Support Fund, first in response to the pandemic, and just a few days ago, pledging support for efforts to recover from the historic winter storms. I want to recognize Maria Rosas, who leads the Families as Partners initiative, and our amazing parent support specialists who continue their extraordinary efforts to serve our community. Then we have just a few slides here of our Families as Partners program. If you can scroll through those, I think they're just three of our parents who are participating in that program. Thank you to our friends from the Orsinger Foundation who are tuning in tonight. Linda McDavitt, President and CEO, and Melanie Kazer, Consultant to the Orsinger Foundation. Linda and Melanie, thank you. Trustees, it is my pleasure to request formal recognition for the Genevieve and Ward Orsinger Foundation at this time.
Thank you, Michelle. Trustee Letitia Anderson, do you have a recognition to read?
Yes. On the behalf of Austin ISD Board of Trustees, it is my honor to recognize the Genevieve and Ward Orsinger Foundation for its support of the Families as Partners initiative and the Austin Ed Fund's Crisis Support Fund for AISD. Families as Partners began in 2015 at 5 elementary schools in Northeast Austin, and with the support of the Orsinger Foundation, it expanded to 22 elementary schools in the district. The goal of the initiative is to create sustainable and effective school-family partnerships for academic success with the guiding principle that authentic engagement flourishes when families and staff build trusting relationships.
You see me mess up? Like, what in the hell?
Excuse me.
Sorry, trustee. Would you, do you want to start from the beginning again or from?
Yes. On the behalf of the Austin ISD Board of Trustees, it is my honor to recognize the Genevieve and Ward Orsinger Foundation for its support of the Families as Partners initiative and the Austin Ed Fund's Crisis Support Fund for AISD. Families as Partners began in 2015 at 5 elementary schools in Northeast Austin, and with the support of the Orsinger Foundation, has expanded to 22 elementary schools in the district. The goal of the initiative is to create sustainable and effective school-family partnerships for academic success with the guiding principle that authentic engagement flourishes when families and staff build trusting relationships and see each other as partners. Families as Partners increases the capacity and skills of parents and caregivers to be champions who actively participate in their child's learning experience. These parent champions implement what they have learned at their own school and with their own child, and then share information with other parents in a train-the-trainer approach. We have seen parents deepen their engagement, build leadership skills, set and achieve goals, and build relationships with students, parents, and staff. Funding from the Orsinger Foundation over the last several years has supported the implementation of this effective dual-generation approach with parents and families in historically marginalized communities in the Northeast and Southeast Austin. Also, in response to the pandemic, the foundation provided generous funding in support of the AISD Crisis Support Fund to help close the digital divide and keep Austin families fed through the Caregiver Meal Program. These types of partners are to be commended. It is with great pride that the Board of Trustees of the Austin Independent School District recognizes and thanks the Genevieve and Ward Orsinger Foundation for its partnership and support of Austin ISD students and families. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Anderson. Trustees, are there any comments on any of the recognitions that we've had tonight? Trustee Boswell.
I'd love to speak to the families as partners, just having seen it in person when I was president of the ACPTA for 2 years and on the board before that, and what a beautiful, powerful, strong program it is. The engagement is deep. It is meaningful to the people who participate, the people who lead it, makes so much room. The principals on the campuses where it is, Maria Rosas and her team, the parent support specialists, know what families bring, and they make room for that to flourish, and it's just a fantastic thing. So thank you for making room for this, for funding this, and for making really good things possible.
Trustee Anderson.
To my school partner, to my school counselors, I just want to say once again, as always, thank you so much for your compassion, for your empathy, and thank you. I mean, I know words can't explain it, but thank you for everything. And to the Genevieve and Ward Orsinger Foundation, thank you so much for your partnership. I mean, family is everything, and to give someone the tools they need to advocate and just thank you. Words can't explain it. Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much, Michelle. Thank you so much for your team's efforts during the pandemic and the winter storm as well. So we really appreciate it. On service to our community and our students. The next, thank you. The next item on our agenda is under the President's report. And I wanted to share two brief reflections before I share the report, a very brief report. One, I think as all of us have experienced both the pandemic and the storms over the last couple of weeks, I couldn't help but think of a reflection of Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King, who said that the self cannot be self without other selves. That just stayed with me. And I happened to read a reflection from Adrienne Marie Brown that said, "Separation weakens. It is the main way we are kept and keep each other in conditions of oppression. Where we are born into privilege, we are charged with dismantling any myth of supremacy. Where we are born into struggle, we are charged with claiming our dignity, joy, and liberation. And from that deep place of belonging to ourselves, we can understand that we are inherently worthy of each other. Even when we make mistakes, harm each other, lose our way, we are worthy." Our community and schools just recently experienced a trauma brought on by greater than expected winter storms. This compounded with the ongoing COVID pandemic, which has left many of our families, staff, and friends experiencing significant hardships. And I want to thank each and every AISD staff member for their tireless work during this time. In spite of these conditions, we had staff checking on buildings, helping with water and food distribution, and reaching out to other staff and students. I've heard stories of our teachers and staff who during this time still checked in with their students to ensure they were safe and attempt to connect with them with resources if there was something they needed. We as a community have much to learn from this event, and our state will need to take time to better understand what led us to these events. But overall, we showed that the Austin community is strong. And I would encourage any student, staff, or families still experiencing difficulty from this storm to reach out to your staff and principals so we can connect you with the resources in your area. I'd also like to provide just 2 brief updates on some of the governance work with the board. First, after discussions by the Board Audit Committee and reviewing best practices and models from other districts, the board has decided to pursue a request for qualifications from an outside partner to provide audit functions for the district. We hope this will bring an outside perspective towards the review of district risk and internal controls. And the board will continue to develop the audit plan and provide more information on a possible partner at the March meeting. And as we shared at our previous meeting, the Board of Trustees is currently reviewing committee assignments for trustees. And we've received surveys from each trustee expressing their preferences, and the board officers will complete assignments soon. This includes not just the board's internal committees, but also board participation on some external committees, both with our community partners and with the city of Austin. And that concludes the president's report. At this time, we would usually have trustees provide committee reports, but we didn't have any internal board committee meetings since our last meeting. However, the Austin Ed Fund did meet on February 22nd. The Austin Ed Fund is ramping up support for our students, families, and staff in need in the wake of the winter storms, including prioritizing another larger distribution of financial assistance for families, supporting employees in financial need, and continuing to support the meal program for caregivers. This work is only possible with generous community support. Community members can make a contribution to the Austin Ed Fund by visiting austinedfund.org or contribute to the Austin Ed Fund during next week's community-wide giving campaign, Amplify Austin. And you can visit amplifyatx.org and search for Austin Ed Fund. And contributions given during Amplify will be matched up to $10,000 by a generous donor. The Austin Ed Fund Special Grants Program is accepting teacher applications from now through April 2nd, and teachers and campus staff are encouraged to learn more and apply. And for more details, there's a website, austinedfund.org/special-grant-program. And the next board meeting is on March 4th. Trustee Singh, do you have an update for Austin Partners in Education?
I do, thank you. So Austin Partners in Education is a partnership with AISD, ACC, and the Austin Chamber of Commerce. API continues to support 2,000 AISD students weekly through its mentoring program, math classroom coaching at Dobie, Martin, and Covington middle schools, and Gear Up and college readiness programs at Aikens, Crockett, Eastside Memorial, Navarro, LBJ, and Travis Early College High Schools. We provided over 3,700 hours of tutoring to students at these high schools. Really right now, all the programs remain virtual at this time. API does continue to adapt to the needs of the students, providing regular check-ins with academic and social emotional support during these challenging times. And I do want to also mention our special project, which is funded by the Greater Texas Foundation to support the P-TECH programs at Aikens Early College High School is going really well. The Aikens team has been instrumental in this success. Particularly, I want to do a shout out for Principal Tina Salazar, Associate Principal Manuel Garcia, Counselor Christine Kesling, and Teacher John Rodriguez. Also wanted to mention finally that API's annual program evaluation for the 2019-2020 school year is complete and is posted on AISD's Department of Research and Evaluation page. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Singh. Trustees, are there any other reports that I might have missed? If not, thank you, trustee Singh. If not, our next item is the superintendent's report. Dr. Gonzalez.
Thank you. Just a few moments ago, we had a moment of some staff lack of professionalism. I'd like to call Ms. Casas back to us, please. Ms. Casas, would you please address the
Yes.
board?
Trustee, Board President Rodriguez and Trustee Anderson and all the board members, I truly apologize for my unprofessional behavior. I was very flustered with the technology issues that I was having, and I was disappointed that I didn't represent our counselors well. So I truly apologize. Trustee Anderson, I'm sorry that I interrupted your speech, and I am so embarrassed by my behavior. Please accept my apologies.
Thank you.
Thank you, Casas. Dr. Casas, we really appreciate that. Trustee Anderson.
It is important that all of us recognize that accountability starts with us at the team. And so it isn't about what happens, it's about how we respond to what happens. We are perfectly imperfect beings. I expect all of our team members with me at the top owning and taking responsibility. I did not want this moment to be something that let's pretend it did not happen. It did happen, and we're going to learn from it, and we will move forward. Thank you for allowing us that opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez.
With that, I first have to really dovetail what President Rodriguez and all of you in some form or fashion over this past week have mentioned to me, and that's the thanks to our entire staff, our entire community, partnerships and organizations. It is because of good-hearted people like you, trustees, our very own trustees. Each of you were participating in some form or fashion of helping our community. You all never tout yourselves, and I must take this opportunity to let our public know how much each of you were organizing, contacting, sitting on Zoom meetings, calling to see what facilities were available, where we could get resources. Our staff, our team members checking on other team members and checking on our students and our families. Our parents helping each other and helping our staff. Many of our parents helped our staff. Our greater ISD partnerships, whether it was the Community Resilience Trust Organization or the city or the county, there were so many partners, and I apologize that I won't be able to remember all of them, but know that I have truly experienced Austin, and I captured this saying because I really felt that our experiences this past week were reflected in who the greater Austin is, but certainly Austin ISD, because there are individuals who will complain because rose bushes have thorns. But in my experience, Austin ISD community are rather thankful because these thorn bushes have roses. It was that positive problem-solving approach that I was truly humbled to be able to be just a part of serving our community. And I want to thank all of you for allowing us that opportunity. So with regard to our district response, I'm also probably not going to get all of it, but we had coordinated efforts, facilities, police, school leadership, partnerships. We had warming centers, Lee Elementary, Murkison, Jocelyn, Zavala, Barrington, and there were probably some others that I don't even know about. And that's okay. It was about serving our community. We had shelters, and even creating shelters was a challenge. If you followed some of our texts or emails, we had Mendez. We were opening up a second site. That site then had an actual water pipe burst while we were moving, and then we relocated. It finally landed at Riley. Then we had other community members say, we've got resources, how can we distribute resources? So the original Sims Elementary site, Navarro, Zavala, I mean, we had so many people working together. Again, I'm gonna miss some. Please accept my failings in not identifying every location. There was coordinated efforts with our own facilities team, our police who were Go to this site. No, sorry, Chief Rodriguez, I need you to go back to this site. No, Matias, go check on this one. The school leadership team calling principals going to their schools to see how they could help. Academics rewriting curriculum so there could be a true intentional focus on social emotional well-being. Water distribution at Nelson, Northeast, Zavala, Anderson, Bedichek. There was we provided some water to the city of Austin because we knew we had a delivery, and immediately when the water was cut off, our nutrition and food services knew how much water we had. Matias knew how much, Mr. Segura knew how much water we had, and so we said we could deliver 1,000 cases of water because the city needed it desperately for our citizens. So we did that. We provided food to Meals on Wheels. You can imagine our nutrition and food services folks worked over the weekend cleaning out refrigerators that had lost power, finding which food could be utilized, which couldn't, when deliveries were coming in, having to do all of what could have happened in over a week, they had to do it in a day. Nonetheless, they came back with our caregiver meals at 33 sites, and today we were back on track with our original 48 sites. We highlighted and put in the very top and sent out messages, mental health resources, links, again, leadership, checking on other staff members, our technology department out there making sure connectivity and data centers were up and running. And so beyond this, I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about the decision, how we moved into this week. I know there are still, we may not have included all of the details that would have made more sense in some of our responses. But truly in a district this size with so many of our staff members living, some inside Austin ISD and some in other areas, the damages that occurred to so many individuals, we would not have had a full staff being able to serve our students. And given COVID, that would have put children in an unsafe environment if I had put too many students in small areas with very few adults. I know that it's very difficult for parents and childcare and just a regular education. Our students have missed so many days of actual school, and it is a very heavy burden that I carry. But I knew that if we did not first allow our staff to ensure that they were taking care of themselves, it would not be possible for us to get the best from them in serving our students. And therefore, knowing the challenges we had, along with the University of Texas at Austin and along with Austin Community College, we did close for students Monday and Tuesday, and Wednesday, Thursday of this week we were remote 100%, and Friday was already planned as an asynchronous day. So I hope that sheds a little bit of light as to the decision-making process. I do want to indicate that March 5th was originally now also scheduled as an asynchronous day a week from tomorrow. We will change that to an in-person day so that students will have an opportunity to have 5 consecutive days if parents have selected for in-person. So if they've gone remote, it'll still stay remote. We will move that asynchronous day to later in the school year so that we can get our students also back into some sense of routine and normalcy, as much as COVID normal we can be. And then we just want to highlight that you will, of course, see a resolution that will allow us to not be punitive with employees who were unable to report to work because of their own personal challenges. We know we have so much to be thankful for, and we certainly want to ensure that this does not become a time that someone is down and we are making it more difficult. And we think this is in the interest of public good. And just some updates. We did create new teacher toolkits that were focused on emotional and social emotional support and learning. We wanted to make sure and reach out to refugee students, recent immigrants. We provided support to those. Dr. Gloria Williams' department, Leonor Vargas, parent support specialists have reached out through their teams to individual parents. We did support around 60 homeless families that we were able to connect to additional resources. So there's just, and it's ongoing. This is just a snapshot of the work that our team has done. In regard to the current status of our facilities, and I say all of this, please know that it's changing every hour. We have groups down, boots on the ground, working at our sites to do our best. So on this next slide, you'll see a list right now of 10 schools that are our most concerning. I am not saying that we will not have school at these schools yet. And in fact, we think we're probably pretty good shape, yet at the same time, I do want to kind of put a caution light if you're a staff member or a parent at Clayton, Clifton Center, Covington, Galindo, Keeling, Martin Palm, Pickle, Bertha Sadler Means, or y'all have to help me. Woodane. There we go. I always, when I see it, I know it's not what I'm going to say, so it's something different. We literally, Mr. Segura and his team are at these locations. If we can get enough of the fans and the air blowers, we will be in good shape to have students welcomed back in safe classrooms on Monday. If it is not a safe environment, we will not be bringing students back to those buildings. We will look for possible movement of students to neighboring schools that may have fewer students reporting. It sounds easy, it's very complex because we have to make sure we don't, again, with COVID protocols, we must stay in tune with that at the same time. And these schools have a variety of number of students reporting, but absolutely, the team are problem solvers and we will communicate that as quickly as possible. We are aiming for tomorrow morning to be able to communicate where we are on these facilities. With regard to some other issues because of the weather and COVID as well, where are we on state assessments? Well, we were going to brief principals on the latest last week, but obviously that didn't work, so we're getting training coming up this next week. The state has allowed an extended window. However, I want to remind everyone, whether our students are taking an online version or a paper version of the state assessment, it has to be done on a campus setting. So you cannot take STAR or TELPAS at home. You must take it on campus. We are not forcing nor requiring, I want to be very clear, about anyone reporting who does not want, if the parent does not want the child assessed, no worries. For those individuals who are reporting in person, they could also select not to take the assessment, even if they're reporting in person. We will work with all of these individuals knowing this. There is no connection at the elementary level or the middle school level with assessments and high stakes. So everyone should take a deep breath. There's no connectivity with I can't go to the 6th grade if I don't pass my math and reading assessment in 5th grade. We don't need to worry about going to 9th grade because I don't pass my math or reading STAR portion in 8th grade. So really, this is truly just the ability for us to inform our curriculum next year by garnering some data about where students are currently. It should be used for diagnostic purposes at our level, at the district level, in ensuring that we're setting teachers up for success for next school year based on what we learn. Asynchronous days have been allowed for students who are not taking the test not to be counted absent. So we can just assign, what that does, even if you're reporting on campus but your grade level isn't testing, those students can take an asynchronous day so that we have plenty of space in our buildings to have testing in alignment with the COVID PPE protocols. We don't want to micromanage campuses in how they create that because every one of our campuses have different number of students, different grade levels, who's testing, who's not testing. We will provide the parameters and the expectations, but campuses will have the autonomy. The important part here is campuses do have to inform us of what their plan is and inform our clients, our parents, of what the plan is so that our students and parents and families are aware of what the plan is. Now, as I'm stating this right now, the commissioner was having a meeting late today, and I've gotten word that there will be changes coming that will, I don't know, but they will probably give us some additional flexibility, given all of the strain on the system. So don't hold us to everything we've just put on this slide, because as soon as I give it to you, it's probably going to change just a little bit. And the last just kind of updates, because I know everyone's been wanting to know where we are, and some people have considered this winter storm. In some ways, they said, we finally got everyone to stay home, away from each other, except that in order for us to help other people, some of us took other people into our homes that maybe we had not been around. So that could actually then increase COVID. But currently, right now, the next slide illustrates our COVID positives. So you can see that even the week prior to this winter storm, we were continuing on that decline. You can see that, which our entire community is headed in that way, but it's always really good to see the numbers be as low as they are. So that all-time high, as you all recall, when we were in stage 5 and we were also under the governor's GA 32 order, because there were too many individuals in hospitals that were specifically related to COVID. So given that, this last week there were 2 positives, but we don't want to be fooled by that, because there was also very little testing going on. So we also have to take that with a grain of salt. So I anticipate that 2 is, while I think it's low, we think it's probably still an anomaly. So we are doing some mass testing. I believe we may be even doing that tomorrow. The next slide, and the last one before I take questions, of course, inspired by a trustee who said it might be nice if there was a way to show the needle moving, kind of. So in January, I want to use the word offered, because I think it's very important for everybody to recognize not every employee chose to take the vaccine. There could be a variety of reasons, right? Or they may have actually gotten the vaccine while we were offering it. They may have gotten it somewhere else and we don't know about it. It's very difficult to be exact, but I think it's important, as you all are advocating for our staff to get these vaccines, as to where we are. So we have offered the vaccine up to this point to more than 2,500 employees. And we are working with other partnerships to see if we could get the remaining approximately 700 1B employees. We have looked at our 65 and older, and we are fairly confident that we have gone through that list over and over again, that we've gotten to everyone. And the 1Bs, we're getting close, but overall, again, that's about 700. And so that gives you a snapshot of everything that's happened in such a short period of time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Elizalde. Trustees, any questions? Trustee Singh and then Trustee Ashe.
Well, mine will be very short and simple. It actually relates to something that I believe happened today, where Governor Abbott has voiced that he's considering lifting the mask mandate. And I have been asked by constituents how, and you may or may not be able to answer this right now, but I guess maybe really, unless you do have some thoughts or things that you want to share, as to how AISD might respond as we're moving forward, should the governor lift the mask mandate.
So we have adhered as closely as possible to the CDC guidelines, as well as the association, well, I'm going to get the order wrong, but the Academy of Pediatrics, and as well as the Texas Education Agency. We have at this point, no scientific evidence that would support us not requiring masks to remain on campus. So until we would get some scientific group like, the Pediatricians Association or the CDC, I, at this point, would not be entertaining that. I would obviously need more information, but given the information we're at right now, I would not be able to support lifting that expectation.
Thank you for that information. I also just wanted to say, on a personal note, thank you to you and your staff. I know you didn't go through the list, and as you said, I know you probably missed some people, but I wanted to thank you and your staff as well for all that was done to help our families and our community. I feel it was very wonderful to see all of the communication coming out. I did feel like many families knew some of the things that we were doing, and it was well communicated out to many families that way with the robocalls and the use of social media and the use of emails, and it seemed to be farther reaching than maybe it has been in the past with our communication efforts, and wanted to thank you for that. And thank you for working so well with other entities. I know many families and many constituents that used and appreciated the resources that both the City of Austin and AISD worked together to bring forward. And just wanted to thank you and recognize you and your staff for all of that work.
Thank you. Trustee Singh?
Thank you. Echo everything that she just said. It was so appreciated, and I know it's just been a trying time and a very trying year. So I did, and I love this. This is awesome. I'm going to tweet it out because I think it really helps see that AISD has been really trying very hard to get our qualified employees vaccinated. And I want to thank President Rodriguez as well for his behind-the-scenes efforts on that. So I had a question that came to me actually through a listening session yesterday regarding testing. There's a concern about the EOCs and that students would still have to come in, I believe, for that. If you could just take a moment to talk about that and just remind us how the individual graduation committees might play into that. I thought that might be some reassurance, but I'm not the expert on that. But would that, like if a family really does not want their child to come in to take an EOC and TEA requires it still, that they would have to come in face to face, is there some flexibility that the individual graduation committees might play in still allowing students to graduate?
It is such an unfortunate situation that the way in which the legislation has been written and the way in which the agency has outlined the rules. The one area that we do not have flexibility will be the EOC, but it is a number of the end-of-course tests that are required before you can go to an IGP or that individual graduation plan. So at the same time, I would say it depends, because if they've got 2 of the required, we may be able to work through an individual graduation plan such that they wouldn't have to come back to take the other 2 that would be required for graduation. So it's such an individualized response based on individuals. So there could be some flexibility, but I want to manage expectations. So what I would want us to do is to please encourage in any way that we can improve for families to contact their high school counselor, principal, assistant principal. I know Dr. Mays will be taking note of this, and we'll also create some guidance for our campuses, and then we can put that guidance out that can give some examples of how, if you've got and met this many of your EOCs and they don't want the student to report on campus for the test, then maybe there is a way to do it through the individualized graduation plans. So it's not a no, it depends.
Yeah, and that may change, I know, at any time as well.
And who knows what changes I'm going to get, when we're done with this meeting. But as it stands right now, that's where we are.
Okay, I appreciate that. Also just wanted to thank you for sending some of the preliminary academic information for this school year. I know we're going to talk about that in the March meeting. And I just wanted to make a request that for that March 11th presentation on where we are with the scorecard for this school year. If there are items that we don't have data for, which I think is going to be a substantial number, I just want to make sure that the public understands that, like, we're not going to have everything on the scorecard. And if there are things that maybe we have data, but it's sort of incomplete, like, I don't know how, I know we have a couple of measures related to dyslexia, how students are progressing with their dyslexia goals and with the dyslexia evaluation days. I just don't know how the pandemic has impacted that. So I think it would be really helpful to have some update on that as well. So that's my little request. But thanks again for everything that you all are doing. And shout out to Matthias Segura for just doing some amazing work the last week with assessing all the facilities and taking care of our folks.
Yes, ma'am.
Trustee Anderson, Trustee Lugo, and then Trustee Zapata, and then Trustee Boswell.
So I have a comment, and this is to a distribution site that was at Norman Sims. I know you said, Dr. Elizalde, there was so many various organizations, but here are some of the ones that that I have. The Black Austin Coalition, Black Austin Democrats, Greater Mount Zion Baptist Church, American Red Cross, the Black Leaders Collective, DAWA Fund, Austin Area Urban League, 10,000 Fearless First Responders, Survive to Thrive, Austin Justice Coalition, and Six Square. So thank each and every one of you for the food distribution site at Norman Sims, and Miss Wendy Mills. I see you. I mean, I've been watching her on Twitter, and I mean, I don't know where she get that energy from, but I hope she share it, because she just just full of energy. You see her, she's visible. So thank you for your leadership. Thank you for all that you do. And thank you, Dr. Elizalde.
Trustee Anderson, thank you for calling out those organizations, because again, we certainly want to make sure that they know that we needed them, and that without them, we would not have been able to assist as many people. So if we could be just a little part by using the facilities, and I have to echo you on Ms. Mills. That's one of the first schools I got to visit when I got here, and I'm telling you, she's one that she and her teachers had that concurrent teaching going on. She's got teachers that could teach other teachers how. It was really amazing work. So thank you for recognizing her as well.
Thank you. Trustee Lu.
So I just wanted to say, Dr. Elizalde, again, thank you for all your work and all your team's work. I really appreciated what you said earlier about perfectly imperfect. It's something that I hear my tias and my mom say as well, so it resonates particularly with me on that front. And I think oftentimes, we expect a lot from ourselves, and in this case, I think we expect a lot from the school district. But I also know that y'all are dealing with constant challenges. The days that all of the families were dealing and individuals were dealing with the winter storm, I can only imagine the number of hours and sleepless nights that y'all had to endure. So thank you for that. And I really do believe that, we can hold two truths at the same time, that our district is doing many great things and that there's always room for improvement. Along those same lines, I want to echo what was said earlier about that communication. It felt so great to see almost like an over communication, and I really want to emphasize and let you know that means a lot to students and families, a lot. And along those lines, I'm wondering if there's any plans to share information about this weekend's CODA mass vaccine. Because I think that teachers and community care members are prioritized in that mass vaccination. So I'm not sure if that's some information that's already gone out or if it'll go out.
So, yes and no. So we have identified our folks who are in that 1B as we've continued to the ones that have been on that list the longest, because some folks have given us information after we started, putting this list together. Unfortunately, the link, because it is still, I guess, limited to 1B, we actually can't even give the link out. We have to register, which we also now know is far more successful in actually having people. When you have someone do it, it is very cumbersome to some extent. And as I've mentioned before, like if you think about someone who doesn't even normally work on a computer or something, it just doesn't make sense. So our staff is working actually on that all day tomorrow. So we are not able to just share that link because there are a limited number of folks that they have prioritized that they're trying to get to. So that's the reason I haven't put the Circuit of the Americas information. But we did learn, to your point, Trustee Lugo, we did learn that we don't have to just communicate about AISD. I think I did hear quite a bit of how helpful it was to get a recording, particularly when someone might not have had internet, but they could listen to their phone and it said, here's water or here's food and so on. So I'm working to build that within our communications team, that we work with the city and the county and other organizations. And truth be told, though, I think I have to give a shout out to Janice Bookout, because I think it was her idea to Trustee Singh that maybe we could do this, and maybe on some of these announcements it could be me, because maybe that would help the importance of the announcement. And I have to tell you, my husband laughed every time I recorded that, because if it wasn't perfect, I had to redo it. And then I had to get English and Spanish done within a time frame, and I'd get overtime and I'd have to do it again. So I have a lot of appreciation for our team members that do those recordings, by the way. But absolutely have learned from that, and we'll take your advice, and we will be looking at doing more of that communication. Thank you for that.
Great. And one last question. I know there might be some confusion out there. Some parents are thinking, I think there was I can't remember where I saw it, but a message about Kokorick or is it Kokorick, right? Is how you pronounce it, and Bowie High School, so Kokorick Elementary. Are those facilities, since they're not on this list, does that mean that they're okay?
It means they're okay from the perspective of there's enough space. In other words, after Dr. Mays met with principals and with Mr. Segura, they were, okay, no, students will be able to be here. We have this number of students reporting. We have plenty of space while work will be going on over here. Because, of course, the biggest thing we hear from our campuses is, I don't want to move. Do whatever you can so that we can be on our campus. So we're doing that, and that's why those are not listed.
Trustee Zapata.
So I just want to get a clarification where you stated that, so parents will have a choice for their child to take the test or not, right? So
That is correct.
And so with that, so before the storm, we were hearing from teachers how much assessments they were having to do to prepare. So what happens now if they don't know who's going to do it and who is, as far as them testing or pre-testing? Or
So really, you're asking a two-part question, even though you may not know that, Trustee Zapata, because one of the things that we need to do to provide our campuses support is not to be test-driven in the way in which we do instruction, period. We need to teach authentically. We need to have just real lessons that are engaging and are relevant, both culturally as well as academically relevant. And then whatever tests they have to take, they're going to be just fine. We do not have to be preparing for a test. Now, that being said, We have already reduced the number of assessments immediately this year that we could. Anything that was not required by the state, we eliminated it. On the other hand, assessment is not all bad. It's in what we do with it and how often we do it. So the state assessment is a requirement that we have to say we are providing this. Now, who shows up for this particular year is really quite optional. So, so teachers shouldn't have to do anything other than continue to teach. And when the test arrives, and we have to administer the test to whoever is there to take the test. But we're going to continue to let our teachers be more creative and be more in tune with just good academic instruction, not focused on this one assessment.
Okay. So has that gone out in a communication? Because it sounds like some say that's what they hear you say, but that's not what they're being told. So
we'll work on that. I have
Okay.
met with, our academics team has met with their staff, and
Okay.
I've met with the principals, and I have specifically stated this to principals, but with everything ongoing, they're getting a
Sure.
whole lot of messages, and it's not something that one time, because it's also very, in many instances, this whole weight of this assessment, sometimes it's almost difficult to, like, is that for real? Like really, we're not gonna have to do all these worksheets? So I
Yeah.
agree with you 100%. We need to repeat that communication multiple times and in a
Okay.
variety of ways. So
Okay.
we'll begin to do that.
Okay, that'll give a lot of them at ease. And then on the vaccine, so I had mentioned at the last meeting that if we had the opportunity to get more vaccines, is there a way to prioritize the schools that have the highest pandemic community, those schools, which a lot of them are in District 2. So is that even being considered?
Well, right now, the only consideration, it has nothing to do with where the school is. It's about the risk to individual people. So right now, the only choices we have are for individuals that are in 1A and 1B, according to the state of Texas. And so anybody that's in 1B, regardless of where they are, we have prioritized that group. I would just ask us to add more than one level of data when we look at that, because in some instances, while there may be a neighborhood of high transmission or relatively high transmission, that hasn't always been the case at the school. And that's why when we're talking about individuals, we're individualizing that, or prioritizing rather, by individuals based on their circumstances, based on how risky it is for them. Now, ultimately, in an ideal world, we need to still figure out how we would prioritize educators, period. Today I was on a group meeting with the Council of Great City Schools, and that people are saying, what percentage of your district, and in every other state, 50% of our teachers have been vaccinated, 60% of our teachers have been vaccinated. And I'm sitting here with just a couple thousand, and that's with you all pushing. And so it is frustrating knowing that our educators are being asked to come into a classroom and not have that. So I would say it definitely should be a consideration in our prioritization, but I would want to look at more than just one data point.
Well, I think that these communities have already been identified as high pandemic areas, and even though some, it's affected them not also going back to school, and talking with community, if they knew that the staff, all staff, not just the teachers, but the custodians, the secretaries, everyone that has to be on site, if they get immunized, then they're going to feel more comfortable sending their child to school.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think that the numbers are there to justify that is a priority area, and they are serving the children who are coming from those families. So, and for example, one of the schools had 19 teachers come down with it, and so we we need educators to get it, but we should definitely consider making the priority all the staff in those communities.
You do realize, though, that legally we can't do that.
Well,
So, I don't have
yeah.
vaccine, right? You know, the vaccines don't come to
Right.
the district.
Right.
Now, we have a plan that if collectively somehow we got the vaccines, we could utilize our nurses and we could get an entire campus vaccinated as soon as we got the vaccines and as soon as we would be able to say
Yes.
that we could give it to everyone. So absolutely, I support your request. I just need help
Yeah.
getting the vaccines.
Right. And I did talk to some legislators and also Congressman Doggett's office, and what they tell me is that Stephanie Hayden said she was going to contact you, and it would be your decision. So I don't know if that happened or not, but I thought that was the response I got. So
Well, for the record, I did speak with Stephanie Hayden Howard, and she again reiterated to me that we have to follow the 1B. And she absolutely committed that she would help prioritize those, but we have to stick with 1B. We can't just give them to educators that aren't in 1B.
all right. Well, that's good to know
Yes,
because
ma'am.
that's not what was communicated to
Yes,
them.
ma'am.
All right. And also, I just also want to give you a heads up for all the work that you did with me and helping me open some of those schools that people were just going in circles, not being able to get access to a facility, and you made it happen. You and Matias, late hours, I was calling you. Polly, you didn't even sleep. So, but I.
Sleep's overrated.
Yeah, thank you very much, and everyone was so appreciative in my district. That has never happened before. They just were like, this is amazing that we have someone who really listens to us, you know, so just want to share that with you, and it meant a lot to the community you served.
We're so
So,
glad that we
thank
were
you.
able to serve, and thank you for making sure that we heard their needs.
Thank you. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Trustee Zapata, I might also add that in addition to Austin Public Health, the community care, the federal health qualified clinics are the ones doing, are the recipients of the immunizations. And so those are going to the hardest hit areas. And the CODA, the Circle of the Americas one, is focused on those hardest hit that are patients of community care in the 4 counties that supported that effort from our county judges from Hayes, Caldwell, Bastrop, and our county judge here, Andy Brown. So, and from their leadership, they also prioritize and added school staff as well. So I really appreciate all of their leadership and advocating for that as well.
Right, and I know, talking with Central Health, you have to be a community care patient.
Yes.
And so they're not all patients of community care.
Right.
The communities that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We definitely need more efforts, for sure. Trustee Basil?
Yes, I just want to say quickly, thank you, Dr. Elizalde, for all that you and your staff did during the storm. Want to echo that, and I'm so glad to hear that you were able to see our community in action, coming together and bringing the power of individuals, of organizations, and I'm sorry you had to see it that way, but I'm glad you've seen it. And excited to continue working with you to make sure that happens in schools in creative and strong ways. So thank you for that. Also want to thank you for giving campuses autonomy with the assessment schedule and figuring out how they're going to do that and the trust that represents for the principals and the teachers. Glad to hear that Dr. Mays will be giving guidance to campuses, and I will tell you, as the parent of a high school student, people are very confused about the EOC. They've heard that assessments don't count, but then they do. So I hope there will be really clear communication with families to really make that very clear, and families at the different levels about what choices mean and what options are. I think that would go a long way toward just clarifying things and helping families have what they need to make choices. So thank you for that. And also taking some of the burden off campuses to have to answer that question over and over. So thank you.
Trustee Anderson?
Just a comment, Tomorrow, starting at 11 a.m. at Norman Sims Elementary, there's going to be a Burger Mill drive-by pickup. It's going to be limited. Thank you, Ms. Mills. For more information, I'll circulate this on Twitter, and I'm sure others will pick it up. So go by there and check it out at 11 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you, trustees. Trustee Singh, one thing I just wanted to mention, Trustee Zapata mentioned it, just reminded me to thank Trustee Zapata and Trustee Foster and Trustee Anderson for reaching out to their respective city council members on the whole issue of vaccines. So I really appreciate you all touching base with them and raising your voices to getting us the last 700. And I think for all of us and the trustees, I'd encourage all of y'all to reach out to your city council members and advocating for those last 700. Trustee Singh?
So since we're thanking so many people, I had to thank someone who I don't think I've ever thanked before, is our commissioner, TEA Commissioner Mike Morath, for allowing us to take last week off through the storm and not have to make up that time. And thank you, Mr. Morath, and also for allowing us to have flexibility earlier this week as well and not having to make up those minutes. It just makes a huge difference, and that's the kind of compassion that I think we really needed. So appreciate that.
Trustees, any other? Lastly, Dr. Lizalde, I just want to thank you for over-communicating with our trustees and helping us open up those schools for warming centers and shelters. We can't thank you enough, and we're trying to figure out how you go to sleep as well. So we appreciate all of your service to our students. I think we're going to close that item, and we're going to move to public testimony for items on consent agenda. In order to accommodate our video conference format, members of the public wishing to participate in the public testimony portion of our meeting called the dedicated AISD phone line in advance of the meeting and audio recorded their remarks. We will now play those recordings, so please listen carefully. I understand we had one speaker tonight.
Hello, my name is Emily Sawyer. I am a parent at Blanton, Martin, and Eastside Memorial, and I am commenting on agenda item 11.2. During the September 8, 2020 board voting meeting, a discussion regarding the budget development calendar revolved around the need for the budget to align with our equity goals. I'm not trained enough to make sense of the budget amendment report presented tonight, but I do know that budgets are moral documents that make our priorities plain. Understanding that the district is in crisis mode and managing increasing expenses and insufficient funds, I still encourage us all to remember that equity and cultural proficiency are commitments that we have made and must fund and staff. We mustn't allow the current crises to distract us from the crises of racism and bigotry that already existed in our educational systems. There is much upheaval within AISD and within all of our lives right now, but we must remain steadfast in our commitments to creating truly identity-safe schools for all students, staff, families, and community members. And for us to operationalize these commitments, they must be reflected in our budgets. Thank you.
This concludes public testimony. Trustees, are there any questions or clarifications? If not, as a reminder, please feel free to share any general comments or questions on non-voting items with the board by email at trustees@austinisd.org. We're now going to move to the consent agenda. Are there any consent items that trustees would like to pull for a separate vote? If not, Secretary Singh, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Yes, I make a motion to approve consent agenda items 9.1 all the way through 13.2.
Is there a second?
Second.
Trustees, is there any discussion on any of these consent items? Having a motion by Secretary Singh and a second by trustee Anderson to approve consent agenda items 9.1 through 13.2. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. And the motion passes by all those on the dais. We will now, let's see. We'll now move to the items for separate vote. And tonight we have one item for separate vote. Trustee Singh, do we have a motion?
Yes, I move that we approve item 14.1.
Is there a second?
Second.
Trustees, is there any discussion on any of these on item 14.1? Having a motion by Secretary Singh and a second by Trustee Anderson to approve item 14.1, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. And the motion, I'm sorry. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed and all those abstaining. So the motion passes 8-0-1 with Trustee Foster abstaining. We will now recess the open meeting at 7:03 p.m. and move to executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.074, 551.072, 551.073, 551.087, 551.076, and 551.071. For purposes of this video meeting, the board will now leave this open meeting, which will remain live online, and convene privately in a separate video meeting, which will remain live online. I'm sorry. When we're finished with our executive session, we will reconvene here. And again, we thank you for your patience. Good evening. We will now reconvene the open meeting at 10:12 p.m. Secretary Singh, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Is there a second?
Second.
Having a motion by Secretary Singh and a second by Trustee Anderson to adjourn, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. And the motion passes by all those on the dais. The meeting is now adjourned at 10:12 p.m.